Two.
We're pleased to welcome Alan here. I'm going to start over again. How do I pronounce your last name?
Delatorre is the easiest, unless you can roll your R's.
I can't. Delatorre.
Delatorre.
Okay. Delatorre.
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 Yeah.
Like Joe Torre.
Yeah, like Joe Torre.
Delatorre. Okay.
Three. Two.
We're pleased to have Alan Delatorre with us, and I'm going to be asking him some questions about Portland State's projects. He's with the Institute on Aging. He's someone who we see as a leader in the Portland community for maybe generations to come. One of the reasons that I asked him to be with us is because he's been in the Portland area long enough to really understand where it's been, knows where it is right now, and I think he knows better than most people where it's going. We'll be asking him about that too. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Roger.
What brought you to Portland? Before we find out about you,
Right.
what brought you to Portland?
In 2012, 11-12, I had applied for graduate programs throughout the country.
Originally from where?
Orange County, Southern California. I actually grew up in the high desert for a lot of my time, which is kind of on the way from LA to Vegas.
Small town?
Yeah, relatively small suburban town,
Okay.
which is interesting because I study urban issues now.
I know you do.
So it definitely shaped who I am today, but it was great because it gave us a safe place to move about, ride our bikes, play sports. Sister had horses, although they were not my horses, they were my
Okay.
sister's horses.
So you had a choice as to where to go to school, and what brought you to Portland?
Well, I had applied for a number of different gerontology programs throughout the country. North Texas, University of Maryland, Baltimore County, University of California, San Francisco, Portland State. And PSU's program in particular allowed me to combine two field areas under the auspices of urban studies. So I was able to focus on urban planning and gerontology, and it was the only program that really offered that kind of menu of options you could combine.
That, at the time you applied, that's an odd combination, or at least it's not a typical combination of gerontology and urban. What is there some aha moment or something you can trace back to that got you interested in the field?
Well, the urban issues and the built environment, there's a good story behind that. So as a freshman undergrad, Cal State Fullerton, I was taking a sociology class,
Okay.
Sociology 101, Intro to Soc. And Dr. Rosalie Guilford, who was my instructor.
You remember the exact person. Okay.
Oh yeah, she's Dr. Guilford's really interesting. If you did a search for her online, you'd actually find a picture of her posing for kind of glamour shots at this stage. She's retired now, but I guess her grandson or one of her grandchildren does photo-related stuff. So she's an older model, I suppose you could say. But Dr. Guilford, she was a gerontologist teaching sociology and challenged me to think about the environment that I was interacting with. And just to take a step back, I used to ride my skateboard to campus every day. And
At Fullerton.
At Fullerton, yeah. From where I lived to campus, it's a great place to skate, a lot of flat concrete. But she said, I want you to think about what it is that you're skateboarding on, why these things were built. And it was not, she promised me, for my skateboarding pleasure.
Right, but you adapted what was there, and then that became your route to school?
Yeah, to a certain extent. The route was mostly determined by how late I was to class at the time.
Okay.
But she said, stairs, ledges, benches, those things are prosthetics. They're not actually built for skateboarding. They're there as aids to people in some way. And she said, go back into the community and think about what it is that you're skating on.
Wow.
It was really eye-opening.
What it does, it shifts your mindset so that you see things through a different lens, okay?
Absolutely.
So once you had that conversation, the next skateboard trip that you came through, you started thinking differently?
Yeah, I started thinking a little bit more about the aids, essentially, or the prosthetics, and what they did for people. But as I continued to go along with the class, I think Dr. Guilford did a good job of explaining to me how aging and society and cities or communities were supportive of the people who were working, living, kind of interacting with those environments.
You opened my eyes when you said that Professor Guilford explained that stairs and rails have a purpose to aid people. And you're now A college student thinking with the mindset of a built environment, purposely built. And
Absolutely.
you can build something that aids or becomes a barrier. And they can be both depending upon who is using them. So at that point, you finished at Fullerton and then looked for something that could keep into that same field?
Yeah, when I looked at the different programs that were out there, most of them were social gerontology programs.
Traditional.
Traditional, more, yeah, and you could find your way, depending on the faculty, the direction that you wanted to go, whether it was aligning a little bit more with clinical aspects of gerontology or the sociological components of gerontology. And I had a focus on sociology as an undergrad, so I had always been interested in the social component. And urban studies, which is where I ended up, the degree program that I ended up in, was really interesting because if you think about urban studies and how to define it, it's pretty much studying anything that happens in a city. So I remember quite vividly the first year I was up here talking to my advisor, the director now of the Institute, Margaret Neal, and I said, Margaret, I'm trying to figure out whether I want to study cities and older people or maybe skateboarding and athletes and cities. And she said,
Are you serious?
I'm serious,
Okay.
yeah. And she discouraged me from thinking about the whole sports and skateboarding, and because she's a gerontologist.
Right.
And I think she understood that there was an important body of work that needed to be completed.
I never dreamed I would hear you say it's either skateboarding or elderhood.
Well, maybe later in my career I'll get back to athletes and aging.
Okay.
It's an interest, a personal
Aging
interest.
athletes?
Yes.
Okay, I got you, okay.
I'm an aging athlete myself, actually. I'm nursing an Achilles injury and a gouty big toe. I just a couple months ago was diagnosed with my first chronic disease.
Okay.
And it's changed my soccer and baseball to a certain extent. I've had to limit some of those activities.
You're having to adjust, but instead of giving up the sport and thinking that this is a deficit that will prevent me, you're finding, adapting, rewiring your brain around it.
Absolutely. And my biggest concession is that I've decided to take a couple weeks off of everything and just rest.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break and then get into some of the academic things you've done, and then we're also going to talk about where Portland is going and your vision of what it could be.
Sounds
We'll
good.
be back. Brain break time.